Hey guys, today we are going over the history of film. 1883, start of film, the Edison company showcased their film to the public, which is considered one of the world's first moving pictures. The Lumiere brothers were French manufacturers of photography equipment known for their cinematography motion picture systems. They reportedly stole the idea from Thomas Edison and created cinematography. They created the moving train film, and it was screened in a cafe in Paris. Georges Méliès, he was a French camera enthusiast who was known for creation of cutting. He stole the design for cinematography and created his own camera. Méliès' shorts, The One-Man Band, and A Trip to the Moon are considered the two of the most trailblazing in all of film history. Over the course of his career, Méliès produced over 500 films. This contained a mastery of visual effects, multiple exposure, and cinematography, made him known as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Sound recording has been possible for years, but it was hard to synchronize it with film. It was also difficult to project and amplify for cinema viewing. The Jazz Singer in 1927 was the first film to have a full soundtrack.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you.
Back then, there was more studios. Sound was originally put on vinyl disc. It was then used for a film reel. The first colour in film was A Visit to the Seaside in 1908. They could not pick up the tune tone, so Technicolor was developed in 1910. The 1930s are regarded as the golden age of Hollywood. With sound, colour, and computer graphics rapidly developing, more and more people were drawn into cinemas. 1933 saw the release of The Invisible Man, which introduced the use of practical effects to give a certain illusion, and it was the first film to use an early version of what we now call green screen. The actor wore black velvet on the invisible parts of his body, while standing against a black backdrop. Then the scene backdrop would replace the black, making it look like his clothes are hanging off an invisible body. The 30s also saw the rise of Walt Disney Animation Studios. Shorts like Steamboat Willie and one of the first fully animated feature films, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Each frame of this movie, over 2 million, was hand-drawn and coloured by around 750 artists and took 3 years to make.
The movements of Snow White are studied with particular care, whose every gesture must be lifelike and graceful.
In 1939, Technicolor was advanced in The Wizard of Oz by having 2 strips of RGB recording one over the other to make colour more vibrant. Although this wasn't the first film in colour, it left audiences amazed because of how it reflected colours in real life. Turning books into film became more popular in the 1940s with the first adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, Oliver Twist and Black Beauty. These films were very popular as they were based on pre-existing media, so audiences were eager to see it translated onto the big screen. 1941 brought the release of Citizen Kane, which is widely regarded as one of the best films ever made. It developed cinematography by using unusual camera angles, dynamic lighting, and striking compositions. Before this point, most films relied on what was happening in the narrative to make a compelling story, instead of how it was filmed and what techniques could be used to enhance a scene. One of the main techniques in Citizen Kane is deep focus, making everything in the frame visible and focused in both the foreground and background. By the early 1950s, lots of households had televisions, so cinema sales gradually declined. To try and reel people back in, 3D movies were created as viewing gimmicks, with the first being The House of Wax. There were lots of specific shots in 3D films that were made to look as if they were emerging from the screen. The first ever use of computer graphics was featured in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo in 1958, with the spiral effect in the eye. The first fully computer animated short film was made in 1961 and consisted of experimental shapes and backscreen. The 1970s witnessed the rise of the auteur filmmaker who had significant creative control over the films and the use of media forms and personal expression. Some directors that made their directing debut in the 70s, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, and Stanley Kubrick, were creating films that were highly distinctive in terms of their visual style, thematic depth, and storytelling techniques. Steadicam technology was developed by Garrett Brown and was first used in Star Wars. In the 1980s, the cinema saw an explosion of creative talent, innovative storytelling, and groundbreaking special effects. Filmmakers dreamed big and pushed boundaries, resulting in some of the most iconic movies in history. Indiana Jones, The Breakfast Club, The Empire Strikes Back, to name some. In the 1990s, film involved many significant developments in the industry of cinema. Numerous feature-length movies were specifically filmed or edited to display not only the theatre screens, but also the similar TV screens, like showing more close-ups and less wide shots, dialogue scenes. The first full animated film was made in 1995. Toy Story was made by 27 animators. Each character was first either created out of clay or modelled by a computer-drawn design diagram, before reaching the computer-animated design. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.